guys, and welcome to Betwixt the Books. Today we'll be talking about Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellefleur. This is a queer romance. It is a sapphic romance with two female characters. From what we know, this is an own voices story. We believe the author is bi, which would still count this as an own voices book. This review is apparently going to be all over the place because I've been struggling just to do the intro, which is supposed to be the easiest part. Gretchen's not feeling super great. She's been a little bit sick. We're going to do our best to talk about this and give you a review.
So as Michaela mentioned, I have been ill. It's not COVID, but it is, however, kind of like certain death. I've been out of work all week and I finally have my voice back. I'm still on a lot of drugs. So Written in the Stars is the story of Darcy and Elle. Darcy and Elle have been set up on a blind date by Darcy's brother, Brendan, who is also Elle's new business partner. Elle is partnering with Brendan, who runs a dating app, and Elle is an astrologer. And he thinks that Elle is the perfect thing for his sister Darcy, who has not been getting out much recently. She's working on her final exam to become a super high-level actuary, and she's just been busy, and he thinks that she needs a life, and she's like, no. So they have a first date. It goes horribly, terribly awful, as bad as you can imagine it. But when Brendan comes and asks Darcy about it, Darcy says that it went great, hoping that Brendan will stop setting her up on blind dates if she just says that she's seeing someone maybe. Except that Brendan says to Elle, well, I'm so happy you're dating my sister, and it spirals off into a fake relationship that, gasp, aw, Pikachu face, turns into something a little bit more real. However, the both of them, they've got their own issues, and it's not going to be an easy ride. So it is a fake dating trope book with a sprinkle of enemies to lovers in there, or at least people who just don't like each other to lovers, and that is the story of this book. So you guys may know this, but I read a wee bit of romance, just a wee bit. So this was my pick for our reading challenge. I wanted to read an Own Voices LGBTQIA book because in my pick and choose of what's available on my library's app right at that moment, there has not been a lot of LGBTQ representation right there at the top outside of, you know, a couple of the big ones like Casey McQuiston or something. So I heard good things about this book and wanted to read it. At the end of the day, I rated it like 4 to 4.25 stars for reasons that we will talk about. I will say that when I first read the description of the book, I wasn't that excited about it. Fake dating is not my favorite trope, but for reasons we will go in on a little bit later, this book is more than it appears, I think, in the description. So if you're on the fence about it and you're not sure if you're feeling it, I do recommend that you give it a shot because this book has deeper layers to it than you might expect at first, and it just really comes together in a really cute, wonderful, and a very well-written, well-rounded story. That is still a romance novel, so we'll talk about that, but that's how I feel about it.
For me, I am not as big of a romance reader. I read a fair bit of romance in high school, but after going to college, I did not read very much at all. And in fact, most of the books that I read now have little to no romantic element to them. Partially by design as your resident asexual demisexual, but I'm always down to read queer books, even though it is queer romance. But I'm just giving you that information so that you know that when I say that I rated this 3.75, it's not because I have a bunch of other romance books that are higher than it and I can compare it to a bunch of things and tell you why. It's more so just that this isn't necessarily to my taste. And like Gretchen was last time when we were doing the epic poem, this isn't my forte, so my opinion of it may not be as helpful to you unless you're more like me and you don't read very much romance. In which case, it was 3.75. It was enjoyable. It was an easy read. It's romance. It's sort of popcorny, light, fast, but I I'm just not as big of a romance person, so I didn't get captivated by it in the same way, and I also like don't have a lot of other things to compare it to in order to say, wow, it does this really well or not. This is sort of like my first foray into fake dating, and I, like Gretchen, not a big fan of it.
So one of my big reservations going into this was the personal dynamic setup. I think this is so lazy when, you know, one of the romantic pairing people is, you know, very flighty and airy and knows how to have fun, blah, blah, blah. And then the other one is like very tight-laced, is often a workaholic. And, you know, the whole reason that they can't get along is that one of them is like, but life is meant to be lived. And the other one has, you know, really strong, maybe a too strong work ethic and, you know, is no longer like looking for joy in their life or something. And like 99 times out of 100, this trope is basically the other person lightening up and learning to enjoy their life again. So when I was introduced to Darcy, the actuary, the very, you know, buttoned up kind of a person, and Elle, the astrologer, who's quirky and, you know, very klutzy, I was like, oh God, it's this again. And I was not excited about that at all. But what is really excellent about this book is that it really shows you that while these are the personalities, tropes that they maybe present very easily to the world, it's not all of who they are as characters. Darcy loves soap operas. She once had a romantic heart that has been broken. So she has layers that are unpacked as the book goes forward. And then Elle, despite being, you know, quirky and klutzy, has worked very, very hard for what she has accomplished, has worked her butt off to start her own business and learn how to run it, and almost got a master's degree in astronomy before learning that she loved astrology. So even though she's like la la la, she's not off being like, work is dumb, let's party. Like, she's also working really hard, in particular because she has a family who thinks that that's who she is, this flighty, worthless, like, astrology kook who's not making anything of herself. So she's on a mission to be very successful to prove them wrong. So just that alone, even though it sets it up to be something I thought I was not going to enjoy, it is a deeper and unfolds more as the book goes on, which I really enjoyed.
So what Gretchen is saying is true. Like, they definitely aren't flat, stereotypical characters. They have that expectation that is set up of, like, these are the types of characters that they are, but they're definitely more well-rounded and more interesting of characters than that. But I will say what kind of made me a little bit uncomfy, and makes me uncomfy when I see it in romance in general, was that both of them were starting this relationship, or even the fake relationship, looking for different things. Elle wants to find her true love. She wants to find the person that she's going to spend the rest of her life with. She's very open and clear about that from the beginning. And Darcy is not ready to do that because of past trauma that she has in relationships. She, like Gretchen said, she used to have an open and loving heart, but she was hurt. And when two people start a relationship and they are not both putting the same amount of emotion into it, or expecting to put the same amount of emotion into it, that makes me very wary. At the beginning of this book, I was very anxious and uncomfortable with what was going on, because it seems to set up something that can really hurt somebody. And especially if, like, a younger person reads this romance book, they're maybe more likely to go into a relationship where they are not going to get out of that relationship what they put in. They're more likely to have an unrequited love situation where they think, we'll just fake date, we'll just be friends with benefits until they fall in love with me, because that's what the romance books say, you know. Like, it's one of those things where it makes me personally uncomfortable, and I don't like that as a trope. And that was something that was happening here, partially because of the fake dating, but also just because these two people were seemingly at different places when it came to what they wanted out of the relationship itself.
I do want to plug here that in terms of the fake dating trope itself, this one didn't make me want to jump out a window. I just read one where and I talked about this in a book in my Kate Clayton discussion, where the fake dating trope is set up because one girl goes to this guy's house to apologize for being a part of like a lawyer settlement about his dead addict brother, and he hates her, and then she passes out, and then he announces that he needs a fake fiance so that he can buy a campground. And he's like, I mean, she's just fainted and they hate each other and she's full of guilt, and he's like, I need a fake fiance, and you're just sitting there and you're like, ay, ay, ay. So the fake dating trope can sometimes be set up in a really bizarre way where you're just like, ugh, just redeem yourself later, please. I guess we'll just get on with it. But this one is that the date does not go well, and both of them know that it has not gone well, and Darcy literally just, you know, says to her brother that it has gone well just to get him off her back, and it spirals out from there. And that, at least, I mean, it's still ridiculous. I don't like this trope necessarily. Why? But, you know, that did make it a little bit nicer. Also, when I went, why? My cat thought I was meowing at her and is now meowing at my feet.
I also want to say, when it comes to realism, because there were some more realistic elements, like I don't know if fake dating really happens in real life, but, you know, there was a more believable reason for why they were fake dating. That there was supportive and reasonable people in both of these characters' lives. Their siblings were very important to them, and they also had friends that they were close with. I feel like I remember from the romance that I read previously in the past, there's times when like friends and family are like hardly ever talked about at all. It's just the romance that's going on between these two people, and nobody else is really interacting with them. And they don't get very much input. These folks definitely have friends that are like talking with them about the choices that they're making, whether they think that they're good choices or bad choices, and they're also definitely talking about things that have to do outside of the relationship. So like Elle's relationship with her family isn't just about her success in love, it's also about her success in her career, and you see her siblings talking about that, her parents talking about that. Same thing with Darcy. She has a friend that she talks with who's supportive of certain elements, and also just a good support system, and I liked seeing that. Like, I appreciate that they weren't just having a romance in a void. There was people in their lives that loved and respected them, and they had good conversations. I felt that that was a strong element of this book.
So to tie in this whole like friends, sibling situation, but also go back to Michaela's point of how Darcy and Elle wanted something different from this relationship from go, the reason that this book is not, you know, a 5-star book for me is the way that it ended. And I'm not going to go into any spoilers, but obviously in every romance novel comes a moment when the two romantic leads, you know, have to have some kind of fight or falling out, whatever. It happens. And the way that it's handled is really, really weird. On the one hand, I appreciate that Elle's take on it is, you know, I'm not going to let you just like steamroll me. You hurt me, and I am not going to like put myself back out there just for you to stomp on me again. I feel like sometimes in romance novels, the aggrieved party is often very quick to forgive, and I do like that Elle took that for herself. At the same time, I do feel what Darcy is blamed for is not entirely her fault, and also Elle at this point knows what Darcy's trauma is, knows who Darcy is, and also knows that Elle came into this relationship, you know, saying, I want the one, and Darcy was far more reticent at that. And so Elle cannot be mad then when Darcy, who has these past traumas and has been reticent about starting a real relationship, has trouble expressing herself. It just felt really weird. Like, you know, you've set Darcy up for this, and then you're mad when she reacts in the way that someone who has gone through what Darcy has gone would react. So I also can't tell if maybe I just decided that I liked Darcy more than Elle and I wanted to take Darcy's side, but the whole thing just felt really like this is how you would expect Darcy to react. Why is Elle mad when it's been clear that they both did not, like Michaela said, come into this relationship on the same plane? So that was kind of frustrating to me, but you know, it's a romance novel, so it all ends happily ever after, and you can take from that what you will. So sorry this is a bit late, like Michaela said, I've been ill, my turn. And also, we did read a book before this book, but the thing about the book before this book was that we decided we wanted to read more of the books. We read The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. We were going to do a one-shot review of that, and then we decided we were going to read the entire series, because this is Betwixt the Books, and those are the things that we do here. So thanks for your patience while we got around to getting this out. Can't wait to do that review for you guys as well. And you know me, I'll be back with more romance content in a hot minute. Michaela might actually do other things. So thanks so much, and we'll see you hopefully for either that review or another one. But it's been good to speak and be out of bed again. So thanks, guys. If you have any comments about this book, leave them in the comments and we will chat with you. Can't wait. Bye.